in Keppel, and indeed in, I would say, the broader parts of the industry as well, we look at sustainability as a mode of operational efficiency. So it could be energy efficient in the way you run your assets. You could be energy efficient in the way you design your assets, and that inherently is sustainable. And I think going back to, again, the architectural background that I suppose went to school with and then started my career with, a lot of it is actually about minimizing waste, minimizing consumption. And all that inherently are sort of sustainable practices. And if you look at investments in a way where the savings from energy, for instance, could actually accrue to the asset value and accrue to the portfolio value, and that becomes immediately an investable case. So where does innovation come into the picture, right? So innovation, I think given a few years, will become the norm in the industry. It will become part of the baseline insofar as it's adopted. And I think with innovation, what we also try to do is to look out for new types of developments, new types of technologies that could actually save even more energy. They could be breakthroughs, for example, in aerodynamics when it comes to fans to distribute air around the building. It could be breakthroughs in terms of, in this case, how one would also cool your data centers, for example, through immersion cooling in an inert, sort of low volatility type of material. Right. So all these are technologies out there that we can actually adopt, test bit, and immediately quantify as annual savings or even monthly savings to your energy bills or to your cooling load, right? So by the time you accrue all these savings, you divide that by the annual, by the cap rate, for instance, of the asset. So you get an instant multiplication factor on the asset value. And this is something that we can quite pragmatically and also quite logically describe and work with our LPs, our investors, and basically go, hey, look, this is what's going to happen to the asset value simply because of strategic moves that we've done for the asset from a sustainability perspective. And it's not so much about sort of hammering down the ESG messaging necessarily, because that gets a bit tiresome. And that too would have its drawbacks as well as, the detractors as we've heard, right? It's really about...
You have some conflicts in a sense because Keppel recently acquired a data center in Tokyo. How does that? How do you juggle that with sustainability and how green it can be? A data center is not known to be green, is it? So how do you, as an architect as well, you must have a different view. But how do you accommodate that into the investment?
Yeah, we're not in a position where we're going to dictate, what kind of assets will actually bring value to investors. So data centers obviously will become, or if not already, one of the largest asset classes that are investable and that will also generate the returns. And that becomes, in this case, a cornerstone of Keppel's business as well. The challenge, therefore, where I'm sitting is how do you ensure that this can be decarbonized relative to A, the amount of consumption that the equipment will take up, and B, the type of adoption of renewable energy that the jurisdictions would have relative to their grids, right? So it's about sort of analyzing how, for example, Japan or Singapore or any of the data center assets where we manage will decarbonize over time. And between now and then, finding ways of further sort of reducing their energy use intensity, further increasing, in this case, or further reducing, in this case, the PUE, the power utilization. What's the E for that, right? But basically reducing that factor such that more energy is spent operating the equipment than it is running the building or cooling